Hello?
Hey, Chad?
Yes.
Hey, this is Jake with the MMA Podcast. How are you doing today, man?
Good. What's going on, Jake?
Good, yeah, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the show to chat.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for pushing it back a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. We're super flexible here. Before we start getting to our questions, how's your day going, man? Walk us through a day in the life of Chad the Savage George.
Going good, man. Just wake up, teach, train a little bit, teach some more, try to find a little relaxing time, and, back on it again. I'm going to teach here again in a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, your documentary, Occupation Fighter. Let's get straight into that. I have a couple questions about, obviously your training and fights and teaching too, but, obviously the thing you're probably most notable for is that film, Occupation Fighter. It's on Netflix. It's super cheap. If you or a friend has a Netflix, go and check it out. I've actually seen it. I've seen it twice now. It's a dope
awesome
film. Yeah. How the cameras followed you around for 8 months. How was it to have cameras follow you around for so long, and how often were you able to kind of sneak away and have a moment or two off camera?
Well, the whole process was actually kind of, obviously it's a pretty new experience. You move out of the house at 18, and, you thought that was the last time you had to answer to anybody. And so then with you get the cameras all over you, kind of documenting every single moment. But it's really not that bad because, everything was kind of scheduled when I knew the cameras were going to be in. And, so it was all documented, when they were going to come in. But, the times that things were going on, sometimes it did get pretty tough having the cameras on.
Hey man, this is Chris, the co-host of the podcast. Glad to have you on, Chad.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem, brother. So let's talk about this documentary, man. I'd heard the name, but until Jake told me to go and watch it, I wasn't really sure what I was getting into. I remembered you from the WC days, but watching it, man, I'm a real huge fan of film. I'd consider myself a film buff, and this is a really, really well made film, dude. Just the cuts and the precision and intimate moments, man. It felt like a really, really well crafted personal movie where they can kind of get inside not only your head and your honesty with how you feel about things, and some dark moments and some light moments. I just wanted to ask you, how did this happen? Where did it start? Where did it begin?
Well, it was actually kind of random luck. I moved in with my girlfriend. We got a place in Marina del Rey, and our next door neighbor happens to be this filmmaker from Germany, and he didn't really know anything about the sport at the time. And then when I was walking down the neighborhood, I had a black eye from doing some kind of training. I don't remember what it was, and his wife had asked my girlfriend, why, what was up with the eye. It was kind of conversation. And she told her, I fight, and, so she was kind of interested in it and told her husband. And so he kind of laughed and Googled my name, and, actually stuff came up, and he was really intrigued by it. And, because he didn't really know anything about the sport, he thought it'd be kind of a cool thing to sit down and talk about. So we set up a little sit down, talked about it and my story, and he was so blown away by it. He came up with the idea of doing this documentary. And it was really more of a way for him to kind of learn about the sport and kind of get my story out there. And I think the way he put it together, it really shows his kind of learning about it and expression of what he feels about it also. I think he did an amazing job.
I think he did as well. And to be honest, it seemed very professional. Now, you say he was just trying to do this. Was he a filmmaker? I'm sorry if you answered this question.
Yeah.
He was a filmmaker. Did he have any kind of, did he have a lot of experience in it, or was this something new to him as well?
Yeah, you know what? He was actually an award-winning filmmaker from Germany.
Oh, fantastic.
So his background was in documentary making. So it's funny because he considered this his gem project, and as far as he also says, it'll be his last documentary.
Well, what a way to go out, right? Go out on a high note. That was a fantastic movie. Speaking about art, dude, one thing that I noticed is that to get kind of in on a human or a sensitive side, they showed your art, and your girlfriend talked about how you had started as an artist and you kind of progressed that into fighting. I just kind of wanted to talk to you about art, what you like to draw, what kind of styles you like to do, and also about Mac Danzig and how your guys' friendship kind of plays into that. If you can walk us through that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up doing graffiti. I've been drawing ever since, I was a little kid. And then it went from, just a scribble on a paper to a bigger paper to a sketchbook, and then, started going out there and kind of seeing how I could, use a spray can. And then after all these years, I just went back to being on a pad and a paper and just kind of really just doing it, from the mind in a book. And then I went to art and film school. That's what moved me to Los Angeles from Sacramento. And
where'd you go?
I started training I went to the Art Institute of Los Angeles in Santa Monica.
Oh, I definitely know that school. Got a couple buddies that went there. Yes, sir.
So I went there, and then that's when I actually got involved in training and MMA. Was just kind of an escape to get kind of in shape a little bit. And one thing led to another, and I had an opportunity to kind of say, I want to see if I can take this thing full bore. And I left the art game behind and moved in on a buddy's couch, and the rest is kind of history from there.
Well, fantastic. But before I hand the reins back to Jake here, Mac is obviously a fantastic photographer. I've listened to him on the Rogan podcast. I've actually gone to his website and looked at his work. Do you guys kind of bounce off of each other in a creative way? Do you go out with him to take pictures? Does he comment on your art? I mean, how does that affect your guys' friendship? Because I know you guys are training partners, but does that kind of play into your guys' friendship?
Both Mac and I are very we like to be isolated when we do our own work. Mac likes to be very out in the wild by himself when he does a lot of his photography. And when I do a lot of my drawing, I actually don't like to be around people. I like to be by myself. And, it's kind of, for me, it's an escape from everything that's going on. I like to zone out and don't talk to me, don't be around me, let me do my thing. So it was kind of a cool idea when we did our art show together, because up until that point, neither of us had really seen too much of each other's work except for little bits of it that we knew we liked it. But we really didn't, see many pieces. And so when the show came together, it was really cool to see, my work and his work blend together, and the show turned out to be a pretty good success.
Definitely, yeah. One or two more questions about the actual film. It's being syndicated on an extremely popular website like Netflix. Do you ever have people stop you in the street and be like, "Hey, you're Chad George off of that film on Netflix"?
What's funny is actually, it's the fight game. It's funny because people will recognize you for a week or so after a fight, and that's even if they even recognize you, unless you're up in the headlines every day. But what's kind of cool about the documentary being on Netflix, people actually get involved in the story and involved in, my history, and really want to become a part of what I'm doing. So people actually start to become familiar with kind of me, which is good and bad, because it's really cool that so many people are coming out either, on the streets or on Twitter or all the interviews that we're doing. It's really cool, but at the same time, the downside of it is that because it is a documentary, people build up the idea that we actually have a relationship with each other because they know so much about me. So when I've been approached on a couple occasions now where people kind of expect me to know who they are when they approach me, and it kind of makes it a little uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, I bet that's got to be a little rough. One of the things that was highlighted in the film, which I thought was pretty cool, it showed you training, everyday life people, a couple people working for a radio station, K Rock down in L.A. Chris is obviously more used to talking about K Rock than I am. I'm actually in Florida. Chris is in California. It showed you training people. I wanted to ask, how often are you training other people, and how are you able to budget your time to make sure you're still able to train yourself so you're at peak performance for fight time?
Well, when the fight gets closer and closer, I definitely do tone it down, the amount of people that I'm training. But for me, I actually really enjoy training people. It's almost therapeutic, and I really use it as a training tool anyways. I think the more I teach people things, it's kind of like drilling for me. The more you drill, the better you get. So, I really enjoy teaching, and I do it as much as I can, even when I'm in training camp. But, I guess on an average day, I'd probably teach between 2 and 3 private lessons, and then I also teach, 1 or 2 group classes a day too.
True. And talking about your training, do you have any fights coming up now? And if so, how is the training for that fight going?
I actually don't right now. There was a pretty serious injury that was highlighted in the film, which was my back, and it's actually gotten a lot worse. And so I'm actually having back surgery next month. To go ahead and get that taken care of. I've got a 12 millimeter herniated disc that I never realized the extent of how bad it was actually blown until I finally got an MRI. Like, I competed in the Worlds this year in November, and I knew something was really wrong when I was having bad sciatica running down from, my hip all the way to my feet. And, it was like I couldn't do anything. I had no strength in my leg, nothing. And, I'm hunched over competing at the Worlds. I knew something was really wrong. So it was kind of the worst it's been. So went and got it looked at, and now we're doing surgery. And I'm actually really excited about it because it's been an injury that we've been masking for a long time. We didn't really show it in the film because I didn't really want people to see it. But, the last 3 years I've been shooting cortisone on my back just to make sure I can get to fight. And, it's just not good. It wears down the tissues, and, you're just masking the problem. So we're finally going to get it taken care of. I'm really excited, because I think this year, and I'm really determined, and I believe it, that this year is going to be the biggest year of my career. But in order for me to do that, I have to be 100% healthy. So we're going to go ahead and take care of the surgery, get my back healthy and strong again, so I can get back to doing all the strength training, all the conditioning, and really highlight what I'm capable of.
All right, yeah, we actually had Nate Corey on a month or 2 ago, and he was talking about his back problems, back surgery. Actually started up a foundation to go around and talk to people. I forget what it's called, but it's a specific type of procedure. Have you ever reached out or talked with Nate, regarding your back and those issues?
Funny enough, Nate actually reached out to me, and we talked a little bit on the underground on the UG. But I think there was like a drop of communication somewhere. I probably shoot him another message just to touch base. But it was really cool that he even reached out just because of the injury.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. I think he stayed on longer than any other guest, and talked about his crazy upbringing with the Jehovah's Witnesses, a bunch of stuff. He's definitely got a wild story. One of the things I wanted to ask about is your fitness and nutrition. You're obviously really keen on it from watching the film. I wanted to ask which weight you normally walk around at during the fights, and also, now you're not training for a fight, but just waiting to get surgery next month. Are you still being as vigilant with your diet and keeping it clean, or are you giving yourself a little cheat period now?
The younger me would have been full blown cheat. But now that I'm getting older, I'm going to be 31 this year. It's like I can't even afford to eat an extra, serving of chicken, without getting weight. So, but you know what? I used to be a lot heavier walking around than I am now. I think I've just gotten a lot more conscious of the things that I put in my body, and I think I'm sick of just feeling crappy when I eat horrible food. I used to get as high as 161, 162 pounds outside of fight camp. And, I fight at 135. But this time around, it's funny because I'm not training as much, and I'm still eating the things I want to eat, but luckily the junk food's just not there anymore. I'm not eating any processed foods. I try to eat a lot of greens. Being friends with Matt, he really turned me on to a pretty awesome way of living. I don't eat fully vegan, but when I do, I actually feel really great. And, I try to eat as much of that as possible. So like right now, I'm actually only walking around at about 153 pounds.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's definitely a cut down from your younger days. Speaking of those younger days, your first fight was in 2005 against Daniel Vasquez in Tijuana. That was before that was before California had legalized MMA. I guess that would be amongst other things. Yes, it showed the fight, and my favorite kind of a fight is a comeback, sort of like a Tim Boetsch fight where he just gets beat on the first couple rounds and then roars back. And your fight was that exact same thing. Sort of walk us through, what it was like going in before the fight, and then during and obviously after the fight, where you were able to come back and start your career off 1-0.
I was so unbelievably nervous. It was ridiculous. I didn't even know what was going on. It was one of those things, like I took the fight on such short notice. I really didn't even have time to process anything that was happening. I had been training like a month or two or something like that only, just coming out of the art environment. And so when I got the opportunity for the fight, it was my coach at the time kind of just said, "Hey, I'm just throwing this out there. Do you want to fight?" And I'm like, what are you talking about fighting? Like, I don't even know how to train. I've wrestled, and that's all I knew. And he goes, "Well, I'm just throwing it out there." And I said, "Well, is it paid?" And he goes, "Yep." And I said, "Huh, okay. Well, interesting. When is it?" And he laughed, and he said it was, this Saturday. And I think it was like on a Wednesday or something. And I'm like, "What? You're actually asking me to fight on a Saturday? Like in a couple days?" And long story short, I said yes, and we went to Tijuana, Mexico, like the next day, and I fought out there. It was just, it was like, to me, I'm just going to go get in a scrap. That's all it was. I didn't really ever think it was going to turn into this. And I think the rush that I got going into that thing was like heroin going into somebody. And it was one of those things I was like, more, I need more. And that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, you obviously have had a good career, 14-7 now. Sort of, what has changed from, or just as far as your pre-fight routine goes, what has changed from your first fight to now?
Let's see here. Well, considering we didn't have amateurs back then, the first half of my career was all trial and error. I'm trying to figure this stuff out as I'm going. Yeah. So I'm taking fights trying to figure out, do I know how to strike? Do I know how to ground and pound? Do I know how to do anything? But we only had the ability to do it while we were in the ring, so it wasn't like we had the feeling out fights. So my early, kind of pre-fight rituals was I used to scream and yell and just get myself hyped up to get ready to fight. And that's, kind of where my nickname came from, because I was just kind of this fireball. And I always used to mess with guys in my studio, and that's actually how I got the name, but it ironically translated pretty well to my my pre-fight shenanigans, I guess. Now I just like to be calm and relaxed. I don't even like to talk to anybody. I like to sleep, relax, hang out, just chill. Don't even put too much pressure on it. And then, when it's about fight time, stretch, do my warm-up, and go out there and handle business.
Yeah, another question about your early career, something I looked up and couldn't really find much information on. Looking at your record, I don't know if I've ever seen on someone's record where they've fought someone 3 times in a row. and you fought a guy named Todd, I don't know how to pronounce it. Guimond. Yeah. But, you fought him 3 times in the span of about 5 months, and sort of coincidentally, every fight ended by the same means with a rear naked choke. Why? Why did you fight him 3 times in a row? I looked it up and couldn't really find much info on that.
All right, so here's how it all went down. It was actually kind of a silly situation. My first fight, I went out there. I was 3-0, I think, when I fought him, and I was fighting for my first title for an organization that was kind of getting really popular here in LA. So I fought him for the first time, and I basically knocked him out, but I got too overzealous, and one of my buddies that describes it, I actually woke him up, opened his guard, threw myself in his guard, and said, choke me. I really had no jiu-jitsu at that time. So I ended up losing my rear naked choke with like a couple seconds left in the first round. They gave me a rematch because it was kind of a exciting fight up until that point, and they thought it would be an awesome way to promote another show at a bigger venue. So we went out there and fought again. This time I learned a little jiu-jitsu, and I took him down, and I won my rear naked. The third time was a 5-round fight, and in the third round, he had grabbed like a front headlock on me or something. And because the third fight, let me back up a little bit. The third fight, they were like, you guys are both 1-1. Let's give it a third fight. See who's really the champion. So I said, okay, cool. So we fought in the third round. He had me like some kind of weird front headlock. It was no big deal. His corner's yelling at him, he's out. The referee thinks that they're telling the referee that I was unconscious when they were really saying I was out of the hold. Ref runs over, stops the fight.
No way.
That's bullshit.
Wow. God, we've seen some horrible refereeing in the top level shows. Man, that's a shame.
It was hard, and and they were like, well, let's do it again. I'm like, no, we're not doing this again. That's not what we're doing.
Wow, I was sort of expecting maybe, seeing you fought 3 times in a row, maybe the first or second fight was controversial, but the third fight ended up being the controversial one. Wow, that's...
Yep. And that's the thing, when you see things on paper, you don't see that,
Yeah. Yeah, you, after that loss against, Todd, you, went, I guess, 7-2. Or 6-2, and then got brought into the WEC. Sort of compare the anxiety from your first fight to your first fight on a big stage in World Extreme Cage Fighting.
I think it's 2 different worlds. You can't even compare the 2. My first one was an adrenaline high of I don't know what the hell's going on because I don't even know if I should be doing this. To my first fight in the WEC was just amazing. I was so thrilled to be there. But it wasn't until I fought Scott Jorgensen that I really understood what people meant by don't let the big show jitters get to you. And I didn't understand what that meant because my first fight was at the Palms. And it was like, 5,000 people. But when you jump up in scale from 5,000 to like 12 or 13,000, man, that just threw me for a loop. I just, you feel the crowd, you feel the energy, and I just lost complete focus. And I showed in my fight. I looked horrible. I made a dumb mistake. And, my hat's off to him. He did what he's supposed to do. But that just, I let it get to me.
Dude, you basically just answered my question. I was trying to think of a way to bring up that Scott Jorgensen fight and try and make it, nice what happened, but you just basically answered my question, Chad. Thank you.
No, look, it is what it is. I used to be really bent out of shape at it, and that was actually I got in a pretty big depression and funk after that fight. I let myself go. I got up to 167 pounds after that fight, and I was like, you know what, I'm done. I don't need to do this anymore. I don't belong here. I went through that whole stage. And then when I realized it, I'm like, what am I talking about? I made it to the pinnacle of the sport. I'm fighting one of the best guys in the world, and I just made a mistake. And as soon as I realized that, it was easy to get back in the gym, but it took me a little while to get out of the funk.
No, I feel that completely, man. I've been there, not on that level. I mean, I've said this time and time again on our podcast. What you guys do is nothing short than spectacular. I mean, you train your butts off. you push your family and, your friends away so that you can be in that gym. You can train your skills. You have to, torque your body. And, then you get inside of a cage in front of not only thousands in attendance, but, a lot of people worldwide. So, it's nothing short than spectacular what you guys do. And you guys are one of a few to be in that kind of, class of, fighters, kind of current day, Roman warriors in the Coliseum. So,
right.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. I can definitely say that, watching you guys compete is the whole reason that I'm into it, for sure.
Hey, well, I mean, I appreciate it, man. And, hearing that kind of feedback is why at least I know I do it, I truly say it, and I mean it when I say, like, I fight for the people that are, that are out there enjoying it and, fans of the sport and supporters of what we do. So, I mean, thank you guys for that.
For sure, yeah, man. You really, that documentary, Occupation Fighter, it is an inspiring ass film. Just a few more questions before we let you go. The film you were training with the PKG team over in California. A lot of fighters will commonly, switch around teams throughout their career. You still training over at PKG? Yep,
I'm actually standing in the door at the gym right now.
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, so what sort of names would a MMA or UFC fan sort of be accustomed to that you sort of train with on a regular basis?
Not too many anymore. A long time ago it would have been a lot more guys. But like since we moved gyms, we opened a new facility, and we've got a lot of up and comers now that I think are actually great training partners to work with. I got a bunch of hungry guys that are ready to make a big thing happen, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. So I got all these up and comers. I got a couple really good pros that are here also, Dominic Clark, Jeremy Humphreys, and of course Mac Danzig. So we've got a good group of I should say a small group of real dedicated pros, and then we've got these up and comers that are I'm pretty confident they're going to start making some big waves.
Certainly, yeah. Danzig, obviously a name a lot of people are familiar with. He recently lost a pretty close split decision to Takanori Gomi at UFC on Fuel back a few months ago. Does he have a fight made yet, or is he waiting to hear who he gets next?
You know what? I'm not too sure. I'll let him. I know Mac's a pretty private person. So I mean, I'm not sure what all he's going on with that. I thought he won that fight, to be honest.
I did too.
It was a hell of a fight. I thought he won that fight, and I thought he won the fight against Wyman also. So, but I know he's got a couple things he wants to have happen. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, did you catch his showing on the Rogan podcast, or is that not really something you keep up with?
Yeah, I don't keep up too much with too much of the other stuff out there. I know I should, but I don't.
Yeah, for sure. But looking forward, you have that surgery in a month, and we definitely wish you the best. You obviously have an indomitable spirit from watching that film, so
Thanks,
I'm
man.
Sure you'll get through it with flying colors. But after you get back, you're going to be focusing more on your fighting career than training, correct?
Absolutely. I truly believe this. Like I said, this is going to be the biggest year of my career. I did an interview, I forgot, the other day, but, and I mean this, but this is the year that everybody's going to know my name. And I believe that because this is the year that I'm going to come back and have the strongest year of my career. I just got to get healthy to have it happen. Have the surgery, come back. I want to have one more local fight so I can make another big statement and then hopefully start kicking in doors for the big show.
Definitely, yeah. The UFC would be a better place with you in it. So your goal currently is to reach that UFC bantamweight division.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I know where I belong. I know what I bring to the table, and I know that there's not too many guys that, as long as I show up, that can handle what I'll bring to the cage. And so, but again, I have to be healthy for that to happen because the fight game is so mental. And if you're not healthy and physically able to be there, then that affects the mental game. And for me, that's been a big part of it for a long time because I've been having these injuries that I haven't been able to put off. Now we get it taken care of, so we'll be able to see a whole new me.
Powerful, Chad George. Those are really powerful words, and we're definitely going to have your eye on your resurgence in 2013, and hopefully this time next year we'll be talking about your next fight in the UFC. We have one more question for you, which I'll pass off to Chris. It's pretty serious. It's a pretty serious topic, but Chris, do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Chad, Mr. George, are you prepared for this question?
Maybe.
All right, man. We ask every guest that has been on our show, and it's one of those things that you can tell a lot by a person by the answer to this question. So,
okay.
What is Chad George's favorite ice cream flavor?
Favorite ice cream flavor? Oh, man. Oh man, that's a tough one.
Bum.
Cause you gotta ask the kid who I'm a sucker for cookies and ice cream. So now I'm like going through all the archives. I'm seeing all this stuff in my head. Now, like, oh man. Let me think.
Imagine Baskin-Robbins in front of you.
Actually, you know what? That's actually pretty easy now that I think about it, because I used to be really like dig into ice cream and all that stuff, but I'm more into frozen yogurt now than anything. I think, ice cream gets a little too sweet for me. I actually eat a lot of like coconut ice cream also. But I guess if I'm going to go on a limb with it, I'm going to say like a chocolate peanut butter ice cream.
Ooh, chocolate peanut butter, strong choice. Yeah, we've gotten a bunch of answers, but I think we've only had one sort of depressing answer, and that was when John Anik told us that he was lactose intolerant and couldn't eat ice cream, and whenever his family went to Dairy Queen, he would order a hot dog. I don't think I've heard a sadder story in my entire life.
It was very sad.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm going to say chocolate ice cream with chocolate and peanut butter ice cream, and I'm sticking to it.
Ooh, chocolate and peanut butter ice cream. Yeah, I forget, she also was on the film Misha Tate. She I think was the only one who didn't pick a flavor. She said she liked cupcakes better than she liked ice cream. But yeah, Chad, dude, thank you so much for coming on. We really enjoyed your time. Follow him at Savage135. And Chad, did you have any plugs or shout outs before we let you go?
Not, my thing is this. I'm so thankful everybody that's been behind me, the film. Thank you guys for having me on. If it wasn't for you guys and all the fans, like, this wouldn't even be possible. So thank all you guys, my management and Iridium Sports Agency, Jay at FSC, and again, just everybody that's been behind me. Thank you.
Yeah, Jay at FSC is a really cool dude. He reached out, and if you have not seen it yet, put it on your instant queue. Whatever. Occupation Fighter is the name of the film. Chad, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully one day down the road we'll be chatting again.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, later, man.
Cool. All right, bye.